Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you work, money never seems to stay in your pocket? Prices keep going up, salaries barely keep up, and somehow you're always chasing after more. Groceries are more expensive, rent is higher, and your parents keep saying, "Back in my day, things were cheaper." Well, that's true, and it's not by accident. The true is inflation wasn't just something that happened. It was designed to keep you running in circles. So, let's go back in time and uncover how this endless money chase began. It all started in 1913, more than 100 years ago. That's when something big happened in the U.S. economy. The creation of the Federal Reserve, the central bank. It was sold as a solution to make the economy safer and more stable. But what it really did was give a small group of bankers the power to create money out of thin air. Before this, money was backed by gold, meaning every dollar had real value behind it. But after the Federal Reserve was born, money became something that could be printed whenever the government or banks wanted to. And every time they printed more, the value of your dollar went down. Think of it like watering down juice. The more water you add, the less flavor the juice has. The more money they print, the less value your money holds. That's inflation. Prices rising, value falling. Then came the 1920s, known as the Roaring Twenties. People were partying, buying cars, radios, and stocks. The economy looked unstoppable until it suddenly wasn't. In 1929, the stock market crashed. Banks collapsed. People lost everything. It was called the Great Depression. And while the public suffered, the rich who had cash bought up land, businesses, and gold for pennies. That was the first big lesson. During a crash, money doesn't disappear. It just changes hands. After that, world leaders tried to make money stable again. In 1944, right after World War II, countries met in a place called Bretton Woods in New Hampshire. They made a deal. The US dollar would become the world's main currency, and it would be backed by gold. That meant every dollar represented something real. For a while, this worked. Money had meaning again. But as time went on, the US government started printing more dollars than it had gold. Why? To fund wars, build highways, and keep the economy growing. It was like writing checks with no money in your account. Other countries started noticing, and by 1971, things broke down. That year, President Richard Nixon appeared on TV and said the US would no longer exchange dollars for gold. That single announcement changed everything. The dollar and every other currency linked to it became backed by nothing. That moment, known as the Nixon shock, turned money into a promise, a piece of paper that said, "Trust us," but there was nothing behind it. From that day on, governments could print as much money as they wanted, and when they did, prices everywhere went up. In the 1970s, inflation skyrocketed. Gas prices doubled. Groceries became more expensive. The cost of living jumped so high that families who once lived comfortably on one income now needed to. Here's a fun but painful fact. In 1970, the average house in the US cost around $23,000. By the 1980s, it was closer to $75,000. Today, in 2025, the average American home costs over $400,000. That's inflation in action. Your money buys less and less over time. But here's the sneaky part. Inflation helps people who are in debt, especially the government. You see, governments borrow money all the time to pay for things, roads, armies, social programs, and more. If they print more money, it makes their old debt cheaper to pay back, because the money is worth less. But for regular people, it's a nightmare. Your savings lose value, your bills get bigger, and you have to keep earning more just to stay in the same place. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up every year. By the 1980s, central banks had learned a new trick. They realized they could control people through interest rates. When inflation went too high, they raised interest rates to slow it down. When the economy slowed, they lowered them again. But every time they lowered rates, it encouraged more borrowing by people, by companies, and by governments. And remember, every loan creates new money. So the more people borrowed, the more money entered the system, and the higher prices eventually went. The cycle became endless. Print money. Prices go up. People borrow more. Print more money. Then came 2008, the global financial crisis. The US housing market crashed, banks failed, and once again, people lost their homes and savings. To save the system, the government printed trillions of dollars and called it quantitative easing. Basically, a fancy name for printing more money. And guess what? The rich got richer, and regular people got left behind. From 2008 to 2020, the amount of money in the US economy more than tripled. And when the COVID-19 pandemic hit in 2020, governments printed even more to keep things from collapsing. Stimulus checks, business bailouts, relief packages, all of it added to the pile. And by 2021, inflation exploded again. Gas, food, housing, everything became more expensive, almost overnight. Here is the painful truth. Inflation is like a slow thief that steals from you while you sleep. If you saved $10,000 10 years ago, it buys far less today. You didn't lose that money. It just silently lost its power. And while you're struggling to buy groceries, billionaires and big corporations benefit from inflation because their assets, like land, stocks, and property, rise in value with it. It's a system that rewards debt and punishes saving. It's designed to keep you spending, working, and borrowing forever, chasing the illusion of getting ahead. Let's make it even simpler. Imagine playing Monopoly, but the banker keeps printing new money and handing it out. Every time they do, your old money loses power. The prices of properties go up, rent goes up, and you need to borrow more to stay in the game. That's exactly what our real-world economy has become. Now, you might ask, can't the system just stop printing money? The answer is, not really. The global economy today depends on new money being created. Without it, debt would collapse, banks would fail, and governments couldn't pay their bills. The system can't survive without inflation. It's built on it. That's why you'll always hear economists saying, a little inflation is good. But good for who? It's good for the people who own assets, the bankers, investors, and governments. For regular people trying to save for a home or retirement, inflation is the enemy. Here's a fun twist. The very thing that keeps you working harder. The rising cost of living is what keeps the system alive. It forces you to spend more, take loans, use credit cards, and keep the money wheel spinning. Without your endless effort, the illusion would collapse. So next time someone says inflation is normal, remember, it's not natural, it's engineered. It's a quiet machine that runs in the background of every paycheck and every price tag, designed to keep you chasing wealth you can never truly catch. In 2025, we live in a world where one digital announcement from a central bank can make your savings worth less overnight. But here's the empowering part. When you understand the game, you stop playing by their rules. You learn to invest in things that hold real value, knowledge, skills, assets, and time. Because once you realize inflation isn't just about money, it is about control. You stop running, and you start watching how the system works. You stop being a pawn in the game, and start learning how to play it. So, ask yourself, are you chasing wealth, or are you being chased by inflation?